He's gone again.
Where is he?
I don't know. Probably out finding Rob. Who knows? Oh, it's a UPS guy.
Oh, these are the wrong notes. I brought the wrong notes, so let me just go get the.
I thought it was a UPS guy coming in to deliver a package or something.
I got the right notes. Sorry, I had the wrong notes. Bet you guys didn't know there was a basement in my studio.
Oh, that's some of his high-profile magic, folks.
I was totally fooled.
But me too. Me too.
Something of a magician.
Something of a magician. Well, hey, welcome back, Spidey and Lita. Missed you last week. We missed the second part of our analysis of this fun little meeting. But while we wait for Rob a couple minutes to get going, Alita, maybe you can step in. Do you know about the filings that have been flying around yesterday with Ashley Walters? And can you maybe give a brief synopsis of what is going on? Because I'm kind of getting an interpretation that she doesn't really want to have a deposition.
Yeah. So it's there are multiple ways of possibly looking at this. She's filed a motion, or not a motion, but she filed an ex parte application having to do with wanting to again modify her deposition or wanting to modify the documents that she has to provide for her deposition. Now, in context, this was all in the Esme Bianco case, and she's where she is a third party. So she's not an actual plaintiff there. She has her own case, which was dismissed, and she's appealing. So we'll see what happens with that. But in the Esme Bianco case, she is a third party. So that's why she has been subpoenaed. She was supposed to, again, be there for a deposition similar to the Ashley Morgan-Smithline situation. And with that, there was a document request. Now, the document request that they quoted in their application, it seemed pretty par for the course for this kind of a case. I mean, it was asking for communications between her, Evan Rachel Wood, Ilma Gore, Esme Bianco, and then in all different forms, emails, text messages, DMs, stuff like that. Basically, like all of those. And I think it was pertaining to Marilyn Manson. So, which would, if it's limited to that, I mean, that seems pretty par for the course. If it's all communications between all of them and it's not limited in any sort of time duration or types of conversations, like it could be conversations about their families and their home lives, and that would be an overbroad sort of request. Mm-hmm. But if they are just trying to say, hey, we don't want to provide anything because we just don't want to provide anything, then that's improper, right? Because Manson side is entitled to some discovery requests. They're entitled to some documents, and they're entitled to a deposition of her, just like Ashley Morgan-Smithline. So anyway, the timing of it definitely looks like she might be just trying to dodge a deposition, which is what it feels like in the Ashley Morgan-Smithline situation.
Right, the three of them, and they're all kind of like intertwined here. It seems like, wait a minute, what's going on?
It doesn't help that we're also, in the midst of Manson's side sort of being, trying to get limited discovery in the Evan Rachel Wood and Ilma Gore case as well, because of the anti-SLAPP motions that are there. So like that case has kind of like there's a little bit of a specter of the meat of his case getting dismissed under anti-SLAPP, and him requesting to get some limited discovery so that he can respond to the anti-SLAPP motions.
Sure.
There's a hearing next week on his request for limited discovery in that case. And one of and so he's requested depositions of a handful of people. It does not include Ashley Walters, Ashley Morgan-Smithline, or Esme Bianco. And part of that is because his attorneys have said in their filings that they were like, we know that we've got depositions lined up for these other individuals, and Ashley Morgan-Smithline in particular, and we anticipate having those depositions done before we would need to respond to the anti-slap motions. So they're intending to rely on these other depositions for the anti-slap motions as well. In which case it's putting them in a bit of a bind across all of their cases to not be able to do these depositions in a timely manner.
Which, again, if what is being alleged by Manson is true, it would be very damaging if they were actually coordinating to prevent this. It is a remarkable coincidence, and it does affect all the cases, and it looks really bad. But to the other note, the other piece of news that broke this week, busy Manson week, the little back and forth between Gaston and the sheriff's department, I think is quite funny, where he said, what was it? Marilyn Manson uncanceled, trolled him.
Yeah.
For Evan Rachel Wood, saying, hey, what about that Manson case? And then the guy actually answered. He goes, oh, well, that's the sheriff's job. And the sheriff said, oh, here you go. And I thought that was really kind of funny. You want to explain that one?
And then, and then the DA now has the paperwork, the results of the investigation from the sheriff's department. But then they've released a statement this week also saying, well, we looked through what they gave us and it's incomplete, but once it's complete, then we can determine whether or not we can prosecute. So it definitely feels like both sides are just kind of like juggling this football between the two of them and trying to figure out, like, I don't want to be the one responsible for telling the public that maybe we don't have a case or maybe we don't, you know what I mean? Like that's kind of how it feels.
It feels like that, because it feels like Gaston doesn't want to say, we're not going to be able to do anything. So he can kick it to the sheriff. The sheriff said, oh, here, hot potato, here you go.
Yeah.
And now Gaston's like, and he does not want to dismiss it because he'll get more flack from Evan Rachel Wood and everyone else, I think. Again, we're not looking at everything, and I'm sure there are people who say, of course you say that, Eric, but it is kind of odd.
Yeah. I mean, I will say this too, that after focusing on the LA County Sheriff's Department a bit through the lens of the Vanessa Bryant case over the Kobe Bryant photographs from his helicopter crash, I will say that there have been instances where the LA County Sheriff's Department has not exactly been very active in their investigations where they deem it to be less favorable for them. So putting that nicely, for basically they can also be corrupt as all get out.
They do have a sheriff that just got out of prison a couple of years ago, but that's another story.
There are so many issues. There's so many issues with the LA County Sheriff's Department that have just sort of like kind of bubbled up in recent years, particularly, allegations by members of city council saying that the sheriff is targeting them because they've been speaking out about the issues in the LA County Sheriff's Department. Just a lot of different issues. So there's also a possibility that there could be corruption or incompetence on that end too. So I want to just in the interest of looking at multiple perspectives, that could also be possible.
All right. Well, thank you. It's cool. It was actually cool that Rob was late because we could do that little recap or kind of catch up on news and events. And again, we're continuing with our analysis of a couple weeks ago. And to be honest, I kind of forgot exactly where we are. I think I've pulled up where we were. So if there's a slight overlap or repeat, that's cool. And maybe that's good. Maybe it's been like life has been a moose bouche between a little palate cleanser between watching this and the second half. So we might get some fresher perspectives.
And Eric, you and I apparently missed the black hat memo.
Well, yeah. I should be wearing it. Of course, it'd be hell with my headphones. I'll have to get those, like the fancy earwigs or something like Allison has, or I can never get them to fit in though. I can't figure out how to turn this stupid thing. I don't know what it is. I got like a pair of the Fender monitors, and I've never been able to wear them. I couldn't. I just my brain.
It's so funny because I only noticed after when we did the stream on my channel a couple weeks ago. I only noticed after we're all wearing black, and like it was in the comments of the world. We were all just wearing black, and the whole time I didn't even notice. Some behavior analyst didn't even observe my co-star.
You were so focused on the subject matter.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what it is.
Is it me? Is it me, or is Rob going to be overtaken with toys soon? It looks like the collection is growing and it's about to fall out of the shelf.
It's gonna be like E.T. Rob just among all of
wearing a tie.
Oh, I love it.
Oh, well, somebody's wearing a tie in the office, right? Be like, yeah, we wear ties. We make the staff wear them. All right, so let's go ahead and we will continue with our support media. And folks, if you haven't seen the first half, please check it out. It's here on the channel. And by the way, I'm coming into a little bit of a milestone here. It would be amazing, but I'm really close, within a couple hundred of 60,000. There's over 400 people watching. And if a bunch of you haven't subscribed and you consider doing it now, I could maybe even cross it on this stream, which would be really, really cool. Getting to another 10,000 level. Someday I'll get to that 100K.
This is a weird way to start a video.
Yes. I wonder if it's symbolic, but yeah. There's some stories actually behind this. Not this particular shot, but criticisms that have been laid out, I believe, by one of his accusers. I can't remember which one, but how, how he was vicious, et cetera, et cetera. And even after some accusations were leveled out, there were like pictures of them playing with his cats, because I guess Marilyn Manson does have a couple cats and is, pretty mellow at the house. Okay, somebody's saying it's his pet cat Lily. Well, there you go. All right, so this is just a cut in the film, and there's more to it. And I think this one's probably going to be a little bit dark to start us off nicely.
I feel so ashamed and guilt. I feel so guilty. There's so much grossness.
The racism,
there's so much racism. Oh my God. This is one thing that I feel like we all have in common, and one thing I think keeps a lot of people quiet, which he's very calculated about. The three main things that I saw him get on people so they couldn't say anything were naked photos, drugs, and I'm gonna get you to say the N-word on camera. It starts off as, well, it's ironic. Like, oh, it's a commentary on the Nazis. Like, oh yeah, we're taking the piss out of the Nazis. Like, this is anti-Nazi.
Yeah.
And then it turns into, I'm just being shocking using the N-word.
And I am just keep stopping at different points, partly to make sure that we are doing full analysis of this. That was a big chunk.
No, that's fine. Let's talk about some of that stuff. Already.
I think it's important to have this out there. This is not nice. Okay. We got to take the good. We got to take the bad. We got to take whatever. Mm-hmm. Accusations are pretty hard. The toy he was playing with is one of those toys. Forgot the term for it, but they were like in the 30s or 40s. Very, very racist toys. Just ugly. I mean, not cool at all. And don't know why. Don't know for what reason he has it in the collection.
Yeah,
I've seen them around. It's Americana. I'm particularly not pleased to see, but whatever. It's somebody's collection. And well, we can get into analyzing, whatever actions are and stuff. I don't have many opinions at this moment there. Mine's more
I have a
general.
question. Well, I have just something really quick in terms of behavior language. Behavior language. Wow, it's been a long day. Body language / behavior. And a question for the lawyers. For the body language, so if we look right in the beginning at Smithline, we see the classic body language of insecurity. We have the turtling, shoulders up, and neck down, neck guarding. So this is very vulnerable for us. The wrist, the neck, and what we call the ventral side of the body is very vulnerable, and it's what we protect when we're feeling vulnerable or defensive. So we are seeing that position right in the beginning, very defensive. Her eyebrows are consistent with anger, not sadness, not grief, but anger. They're going downwards and they're close together. We do see the lines up here, but they're not quite that they don't have that dip that you would see in grief right here. They're coming closer and together like this. So there's anger here, vulnerability, protectiveness. The question I have for the two lawyers is this: what point is being made here? So we're coming together to discuss, A or SA or DA or whatever it is. Is this relevant? Like what the discussion that is being had here? Like would this? So in a courtroom, would this be like objectable? Would you object to this for relevance? Because she's like talking about he's racist and he's this and he's that, and does that pertain to the reason that they're here? Because the reason that they're here is to discuss the different things that he did to each of them in terms of abuse. Does this pertain to that?
If I'm opposing counsel, I'm definitely objecting to it on the grounds of relevance. But I think that the way that they sort of tie this in has to do with this coercive control. Has to do and particularly not necessarily to talk. I mean, it's they're pointing to the general population around him, saying that he's sort of manipulating all of the people around him, but then also saying like, this is how we were manipulated, how we were coerced in all of these various ways to do all of these things, and to allow ourselves to be abused in certain respects, I suppose. And saying that it was, part of it was because of this environment that he had created around him to sort of keep us from talking.
Got it. That makes sense. So it relates to the broader point, but because for me, my main thing is like, if this is about each person coming in here and sharing their story, to have a ringleader create a narrative puts a kind of lens over the whole thing and says, we're here to say negative things and bad things. That's what we're doing here. Not that there isn't bad things or negative things to talk about. I keep saying this every time we get on this stream. I'm sure there are things, behaviors and activities for which he's reproachable. And this isn't a good look. He's putting a mustache on, he's drawing a mustache on someone, and he's making light of things that shouldn't be made light of. I just wanted to know if there's relevance between this discussion and women sharing their stories of SA pertaining to Marilyn Manson.
Rob, you have something there?
No, it's the same thing you see with a lot of the difference between what you see played out in the media versus what you see played out in a courtroom. Bad people, bad things. Like that's it. They're trying to draw a connection between something that's bad, making it more likely that he does other things that are bad. It doesn't really have a place in the courtroom. And I don't see this part getting in a case involving SA. I just don't.
Yeah, that's what my gut was. Eric, can you go back? Was it Evan Rachel Woods who was drawing the mustache, or was it Marilyn? I just saw a mustache.
I don't think it was him. I think
it wasn't him.
I don't think it was him either.
Oh, well, thank you, JFK 12, for that clarification, because that's.
But I wanted to interject on that a little bit too. Because
so
I have a reason.
Sorry, I just saw Mark, because I thought the point she's making is that he does things like this, but is the point she's
that's
making
him doing stuff there, like with the two people on the wall.
So what's the point? That's okay. That T-shirt is awful.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Well, yes. Okay.
I mean, it's awful and it's not, right? It's like it's weird. It's like there's this contrast of like, I don't even know what it is. It just shouldn't exist.
Okay, but there's another. I wanted to kind of answer because I actually wanted to get everybody out of the way, but I had something to say. I have a reason actually that may be a factor, and this isn't anything to do with body language. This is to do with an overall narrative. Now, I've been saying 1,000 times, and everybody's tired of it. Why are cameras there? We know why cameras are there, in my opinion. We have cameras here because we are painting a picture. This is a narrative. This is her story. And I would argue that this could be seen as a preemptive defense. The reason why I would say that is, from what I understand, and there are pictures to substantiate it, Evan Rachel Wood had a large habit of going around throwing Heil salutes and things like that all over the place. And if you look what she just did, everything about this is, I was underage. I couldn't be helped. So now it's because he made her do Nazi salutes. So I am going to throw in my personal opinion that it could be a preemptive defense in the court of public opinion, because those pictures were a point of contention to the point where, I'll throw the name out there. I know Leslie Lane has some of the pictures, and Leslie Lane was with them at the time. And apparently she did it a lot, like was famous for it. People in the chat were talking about it. And they're even saying she was the only one throwing that about. And would it not be useful to say, oh, see, look, I was so under his influence that I had to prove that I was doing all of this. Therefore, that's why.
Eric, can you just go back? I'm sorry. Can you go back?
Yeah,
I would like to look at, because I was taking notes, looking up and down. I want to see her expression.
Yeah,
that's tight lip. That, by the way, that tight lip stuff is very baseline for Smithline. So I'm not going to compare it. It's usually important.
This is one thing that I feel like we all have in common, and one thing I think keeps a lot of people quiet, which is very calculated about. The three main things that I saw him get on people so that they couldn't say anything were naked photos, drugs. I'm going to get you to say the N-word on camera. It starts off as, well, it's ironic.
Oh, can I point out to something about the N-word? And this might seem minor, but one of the things that he's done recently, and he's hung out with a lot of rappers. And rappers sometimes do have that kind of shirt near them. One of these is a little known guy named Kanye West he's hung out with. So I don't know if that matters, but it doesn't fit the stereotype necessarily of being the full-blown racist when that's part of your peer group or people you hang out with.
Yeah. It's so weird because I don't know the answer to, is that t-shirt racist? Because using a very racist term, but then it says lover. It's so confusing. It's like Schrodinger's t-shirt. What? And
was that, who was wearing it? That's the other problem. Was that him?
Yeah, it wasn't Marilyn.
It wasn't him. It was someone else, because it showed him next to them at one point.
To the person. It's not him.
Yeah.
Right, and that and that was actually a common term for people who had friends who were black. Again, I'm not supporting or anything, but it was a derogatory insult. But I'll keep playing so we get
this panel.
It starts off as, well, it's ironic. It's a commentary on the Nazis. Oh yeah, we're taking the.
Okay.
That looks like Evan Rachel Wood right there.
This is perfect.
Yeah.
This is perfect. You don't even need me here. You don't need someone who studied body language and behavior to be here to answer this question. So I ask this question to your viewers. Look at her. Look at her expression. The hat is blocking half her face, but look at her expression. Look at the way she's leading into it, holding the head. Does this look like someone who's been coerced to do something to you? Even I know we can't really judge by one little moment, but does this look like someone who's reluctant or resistant? I'm asking the viewers, yes or no. Either answer is valid. I just don't know to most of you. Gut instinct, do you feel that this is something that's coerced or unwilling? What do you guys think on the panel?
I will say that there's nothing about this frame or this clip that they use that looks like she's being coerced. Obviously, there could be more footage elsewhere where she is being coerced that we don't know about. But the thing about that is that if that existed reasonably, with reasonable accessibility, that would be in the documentary.
Yeah.
Why would they use this instead of that if they had access to something like that?
I don't think if I'm looking at it right now, it looks like they're playing dress up. She's having fun. I mean, it's got that vibe. Her hand is lightly touching. I mean, her hand's completely extended. It's like a gentle touch. Just look. Yeah. It's
looking around. I don't want to do this. That's what I'm seeing. Rob?
Rob hates stills out of a film. I know.
It's not a still. It's moving.
I mean,
You just pause
it's
at the right
not.
moment.
I don't see anything that's.
No comment
doesn't
is
vibe
fine
with
too, buddy.
I don't really have any observation on this one other than it doesn't look like there's anything compelled about it.
Exactly. Yeah, that's all I'm saying.
And it's also not him.
Could it be? Is it possible that after this she put the pen down? Could it be that after this she put the pen down and she was like, "No, I don't want to do this, and I never want to do that." Could it be that just before this she was crying? It's possible. Just this behavior within this snapshot, and by snapshot I don't mean this freeze frame. I mean this little thing that we're looking at here. To me, it looks like someone, like you said, playing fun, playing dress up, having fun. So that's what it looks like to me. Of course, there's no absolutes, but that doesn't look coarse to me.
Right. And again, you know, the chat brought up too. Where's he? Where's he in this?
Yeah, where's
He's
the
not
puppet
here.
master?
And the other one that flashed by, I don't think it was him who was wearing the
No, it's not. It's not.
and so it's here we go. That's her. I think that's her.
Oh, the thing.
I mean,
yeah.
Well,
the
look
face
at
is
that.
blurred. The
Yeah.
face is blurred out, so it's we really reasonably can't.
We don't
determine
know
that.
if it's her, but we know it's not
Yeah.
him.
Well, that's true.
So
That is
at
true.
least
If
that.
the
So
face
it's like,
I mean, the face being blurred out, presumably the faces are blurred out because they don't have consent of the individuals they're airing.
Right.
true.
But
So it's
if
might not be her.
it might not be her, but if it is, then I'd be very curious as to why they blurred her out in this image.
Yeah, I don't know. I know that there are images of her doing that. That may not be one.
It's like, oh yeah, we're taking the piss out of the Nazis. Like this is anti-Nazi.
Yeah.
And then it turns
We
into
love Jews.
I'm just being shocking using the N-word. You don't get the joke.
So there's some behavior, Spy. That's really fast for me to look at. Did you get anything out of it? I didn't.
Right there at the end.
Yeah, when she was
Yeah, one arm.
describing it.
It's interesting how she's taking up space. So we talk about arms akimbo, Eric. I'm sure it's a term you're familiar with. This is arms akimbo. It's usually I'm taking my space. It's quite confident. We also sometimes see arms akimbo with the thumbs in the front like this, and this is inquisitive. Like if I were to approach something and I'm curious about it, you might see this kind of thing. So inquisitive, confident. She's taking up a lot of space. Like she's talking like this. So the other arm isn't akimbo like this. It's forward like this, but it's still taking up a lot of space. This is someone going, in this moment, there's confidence. It's like dominating the conversation. That's the way I see this body language. She's sprawled out with the arms, taking up that space, taking over the narrative, and it's consistent with what she's saying. Again, I go back to this isn't to me, I've worked in therapy. Rob and Alita have extensive experience in working with families and trauma and getting over that kind of thing. To me, the work that's being done here, to Rob's point from our previous stream, is it's not helping the healing process. So my one question is why? Why are you talking about this subject? And it's almost forceful. And again, I'm not speaking to deception. I'm not speaking to honesty. I'm speaking to intent. There seems to be an intent here to paint them under a certain light with authoritative, confident body language. That's it. I can't tell you in that moment if it's
is that congruent with someone who I can't help. And of course, I'm going to bring up Amber Heard, which everybody hates, but oh well. Remember when you, and I know you for a fact did in one of your videos about Amber Heard, talked about how she was describing the behavior, but almost acting it out, like she was the one doing the behavior, saying that he did it, but acting it out.
Right.
This in my head, I'm sorry, there's just kind of this weird parallel in my mind of like her confidence. Whereas Johnny, when he said, something was thrown at him, he was just, you saw
exactly.
him.
So that's a good point. Let's
projecting.
Yeah. Let's really quickly touch on that. When Johnny was talking about the bottle coming at him, she threw the bottle at me and it went right by my head. He stepped into his own role in that moment. Amber would go back and forth. There were times, I don't want to do a whole Amber Johnny Depp thing.
No.
We've all been there. But Amber, there were times where she would say something like, and then he pulled my hair. And then he pulled my hair. And she would say, it's incongruent for me to do it. Like it's hard for me. She would go, he pulled my hair. And this is, some people might do that, but it's weird. If you're reliving that moment, why isn't it he pulled my hair? Why aren't you stepping back into your own role? And it's so funny because I was making this point at a family gathering a couple of weeks ago. My mom was talking about a teacher she had when she was younger. And it was insanely awesome to see because she was saying, oh my God, this teacher was so abusive. And she literally did this. I've seen her slap kids. I've seen her hit them with stuff. And this one time she pulled my hair. So when she talked about what the teacher was doing to the other kids, it was the teacher's gesture that she observed. But when it was what was being done to her, she did it to herself. Flipped in a second without even thinking about it. Insane. So I wouldn't take that to the bank. It's not always consistent. I might say that then this guy just came up to me and punched me. But it's more, we see it more often that when we're stepping into a role and telling the story, we relive what happened to us. He hit me on the face, he pulled me by the hair, rather than he slapped me on the face and pulled me by the hair. So yeah, it is interesting, Eric, and you're right. Again, it's not something I would take to the bank, but you're involved in a certain role when you're telling the story, and I'm interested in knowing why are you stepping into that role. Kudos.
I think part of it could be, I mean, what if you listen to the language that she's using, she is talking like generally about how these kind of conversations would happen. So she may be referencing her being a third party witness to this conversation, and so therefore seeing him being more active and kind of remembering that more than the other person being on the receiving end. That's one possibility.
A very, very great possibility. She could be recounting what she witnessed, and therefore she's stepping into his role because she saw him do these behaviors to someone else. Alita, great point. Love it.
What about Ashley's expression here, which I think is an interesting reaction to Evan's presentation?
Yeah, scrunched eyebrows is consistent with one of two things: focus or anger.
All right.
Eric, what do you think? Eric, don't just let us hang like that. What do you think?
I think there's actually worry there, but that's just maybe I'm seeing more. But it doesn't look like anger to me. It looks it's not a certainty. There's that worry line starting to go with a lot of Botox to prevent it from going crazy. In my opinion, she looks very uncertain.
Yeah, so when I say focus, that there's a lot that go into focus. It could be confusion, it could be uncertainty when we're in deep thought. So very, very possible.
And that evolved into, I'm gonna get mad at you if you don't laugh at that joke.
Yeah.
And then it was like,
I hate myself.
oh, I have to laugh at this joke. And then it was, I don't trust you if you don't make the same joke. And then I felt like I had to participate in that to show him that I was loyal.
Notice really quick, aggression
from her. It's like she's controlling this room.
Yeah, but look at the contrast between aggression, victim, aggression, victim, and we see it back and forth. So chin thrusts and firmer tone with the eyebrows down or neutral. When it's he said this, and then back up, soften the tone, eyebrows go up, which is what we do when we're looking for approval or social connection, and softer tone when she talks about her reaction to this. He said this, I did that. He said this, I did that, which is normal. It's fine. Just interesting to see.
Cool. All right. And good old Dan.
That's what kept me from coming out for a really long time. It's just feeling like I was a horrible person and I was disgusting and there was something wrong with me and I was crazy.
I think we all probably have tortured ourselves ad nauseum. I allowed my appendix to burst right after. I just wanted it to because
she allowed her appendix to burst.
This is some interesting. I'm going to play a little more, but yeah, we've definitely got to cover this.
Telic appendix.
Just the head shaking. I allowed it to.
I didn't want to feel. I felt pain in my stomach for days. I let my appendix burst. It went gangrenous. I went
allowed
septic.
and then let.
She also, by the way, I'm hearing a little bit of that English accent in there. Are you hearing that? Like when she started talking and you didn't see her, I was like, wait, was that Esme talking?
That
But-
also could have something to do with maybe that, or I wonder if that could impact her posture and her level of comfort too. If she feels like she's trying to like squeeze out a different accent than what she normally talks in, I wonder if that would impact her body language.
Well, look at her posture compared to everyone else in the room.
Yeah.
Everyone else
Yeah.
is sitting there. Everyone that's sitting there is leaning forward. Their shoulders are out. Their chests are up. She has her shoulders closed and she is back. There is something about her demeanor that does not want to be in that discussion or in that group.
Yeah.
So leaning back is really fascinating to me because it's just one of those body language things where it can mean opposite things, right? When we're comfortable, we lean back into our chair. You're having a pleasant conversation, you lean back. But yeah, you also distance and lean back when you want to literally distance from something. And Rob, I think you nailed that. I'm not seeing this as a comfortable lean back, although she wouldn't be lean back if she was uncomfortable, but I am seeing it as distancing because we're seeing those shoulders up and it does look like there's an attempt there to distance.
Definitely. And then let's talk about the language and what she's saying. I mean, come on. I let it. I wanted to.
I allowed it and I let it. I call
It's
this,
very
it's a rare gift that some psychics have. It's called telecappendix. Use your mind. Use
Okay,
your mind.
people are pointing out.
Appendices. Sorry, I'm not trying to laugh at someone's pain, or I'm sure that
No,
was
it's a funny statement.
It's an odd phrase to use when you're talking about a medical emergency such as your appendix bursting.
Yeah. I think at most what would be okay is to say like, I let it get to a point where I was so sick that such and such thing happened. I would understand that. But like, I allowed my appendix to burst. Like she was like, you may burst now. That's weird.
Actually, I want to hear this again.
I want to feel. I felt pain in my stomach for days. I let my appendix burst. I went gangrenous. I went septic. I was like, just let me fucking die. Just let me die so I don't have to feel this shit.
I'm going to say something about her though. I think it's interesting. But people are pointing out in the chat that she was the one, possibly in text saying that she was on ketamine during the interview. I don't know if she is on a substance right now. It is possible. I can't help but feel like there is something very wrong though. Like I feel bad for her. Like I don't know the reason behind it, but I do kind of feel like she's really in pain here.
She definitely comes across as very, very tense, for sure. Just very tense and uncomfortable. And maybe it's the turtling, maybe it's, the fact that she's leaning back, the fact that her, like the things that she's saying, I don't know. It's coming out in a way that does not feel comfortable at all, which is interesting because you would think that they would have sort of warmed up with conversation before this point. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out what it is, but you're right. Something definitely feels off with how she's coming across.
Like,
Yeah.
What do you guys see? I mean, and again, that's why I don't want to just pick it, but I'm just
still trying to
I'm
make
looking at a
honest-
person who's suffering for some, in some ways. She does not look happy.
There's a tension. There's an internal tension that you get from the words that she chooses. The allowing something gives her agency over something that she can't control. There's a tension that she fights with, and when she expresses herself there at the end, that sadness, that's a genuine sadness that comes out at that last minute. There's nothing fake about the sadness. I truly believe that there is a sadness. There is something in conflict within her. It's just, I don't know the cause of it. I think she might be just searching for the cause of that sadness, which is another reason why some of these gatherings can be really unhealthy. If someone is facing a health crisis or a mental health crisis, and they're looking to try and determine what it is that's causing it, telling them what might be causing it isn't really a productive way of going about it.
Yeah. And this is different than what we were talking about when we were going through the Britney Spears audio and talking about AA and the benefit of going to AA meetings, and some of her the ways that she would go to those meetings and feel some sort of sense of community and trust, and like that probably was very refreshing for her, because it's like, this is a group of people that don't owe her anything, or are not asking anything of her. That there can be something very beneficial to sitting in a room where people are sort of unloading their experiences, and you would expect in a meeting of people that have supposedly been through similar experiences, that in a lot of ways that would come across as very cathartic. Now, when it comes to Evan Rachel Wood, you kind of get this sense that she's much, lighter, like she's able to sort of talk through these things, kind of get things off her chest. But you look at Ashley Morgan-Smithline, and it looks like it's like the opposite is going on with her. Like, there is no catharsis for her through this experience at all.
And by the way, if a note, because unlike Spidey, I will say that Brittany is wonderful. There's no issues whatsoever. We love Brittany. It's perfect.
Yeah,
as
of course.
driven snow.
Of course.
Okay, Eric. All right.
I know we all got some interesting comments from that one. So I guess maybe I shouldn't have brought it up, but
No, you
but it's just
should've.
the juxtaposition.
No, it's
though,
a good one.
between
I'm just trying to lighten up for a second. That's all. But
Brittany is all, and we're all very clear on that. We're not revisiting that. What she went through was absolutely horrifying.
yes.
We're all clear on that. Okay, everyone.
Yeah.
No, I think Alita's parallel is incredible. Like how Brittany, it was such a positive experience for her, and she was talking about AA, and it was so nice and so kind for her to say, like, because a lot of people would be like, I didn't belong there, I didn't have to go there, and she was like, even if I wasn't drinking, like, it was nice to hear all these stories. It was a healing thing. But there's a few things about Alcoholics Anonymous that's different from what I'm seeing here, or any support group. First, it's not televised or filmed, and that changes the context enormously. Second, I have a feeling this was directed, right? So somebody, I don't know if it was Evan or somebody else, is
Amy Berg, probably.
Okay, now you say something. Okay, so you have to say something. I'm guessing that there was at least a few points throughout this documentary where people didn't speak of their own volition, but they had to say something, because the director said, okay, you say something now.
It's interesting you say that, because in some of the court filings, Evan Rachel Wood, I think it was Evan Rachel Wood, said the opposite. Said that when people came into the survivors meeting, they didn't try to force them in there, first off, and then second, when they were there, they didn't require them to be on camera, and that they didn't require them to talk.
Well, require and desire. No, you're not required to, but there happens to be.
Alita, let me ask you
something.
Sorry, let me ask you something. Is there a director credited for this documentary?
Yeah.
Amy Berg.
Then people were directed. End of story.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is kind of what I was saying.
Smile out of Rob. See you guys later.
Patricia. All right, it's good having you. Mic drop. I do wonder about this, if this might not be true, that she's having a mental breakdown. And he's
about Ashley Morgan-Smithline?
Yes. I mean, there is just looking at her, she's not happy. She's not a happy camper. There's something there. And
there's enough chaos going on in the litigation to suggest that there could very well be things going on that she needs some kindness and some care and some guidance through whatever it is that she's going through that is particularly troublesome.
Yeah, her social media presence, like her social media and what she puts out in the world, kind of freaks me out every time I look at it. Like, you go through it and it's like, oh my gosh, honey.
Yeah.
And I see it there.
Sorry, Rob, go ahead.
No,
I'm done. I was done.
Yeah. To put a bow on what we were saying before, there's also a difference between, okay, we're going to need you to sit here now and say this and tell us that again and then do it. There's a difference between that and saying, here's a checklist, check off all the things that were done to you, and then we're all going to sit together and I'm going to go, so he would do this and he would do that and then he would do this, right? And then kind of encouraging that direction. There are ways she's a very charismatic speaker. She's an actress. She has a capacity to connect emotionally with people. There are ways to encourage without necessarily coercing. And it's funny because she made that argument, right? That he was coercing her to do certain things without it being outright like, do this, like she was impressionable. Well, are you arguing that these women aren't impressionable? Because you are as much of a charismatic leader as he is. So to deny that she in any way got them to say certain things, certain ways, and push a certain narrative is denying her own ability to lead a group, to be charismatic.
And at
you
the
guys
same
in the
time,
chat, this is a question for the chat. Did you guys in the chat, when Spidey was giving that description, did you notice that every time he was made a point, his head came forward and he was trying to persuade you of the point he was making? Watch Evan Rachel Wood when she does it before. It's not like just encouragement. When she does the jot and she does that is demanding. That's not just saying I'm encouraging you. That's asking you to jump on board with her, agree with what I'm saying. I'm trying to convince you of something. And it's not a negative. It's actually a very effective way of communicating your point. But in this setting, it's not appropriate in this particular setting.
Well, I have just tasted my own medicine and I don't like it.
You don't like it?
It's funny,
now you know how it feels.
More to that point.
This is how it feels. It's horrible.
When you were describing the story, that's kind of how I was feeling it. Was a push, observe, push, observe. And I don't know, so it's funny because she was saying, he said, I did. He said, I was seeing it as, I'm saying this, I lean back. Are you receiving? Am I going to come at you again? Like it almost felt skull-marmy or something. I don't know.
The parallel doesn't surprise me. We both have enormous background in performing, connecting with audiences. She's a celebrated actress. I've spent my life on stages, and yeah, Rob 100% nailed that. It comes from being on stage or on camera and compelling, and then it's push-pull, right? And Rob has made this point about Rottenborn as well. With the jury, he does that as well. He goes in as he makes points and he backs up. And this is how we make a point. I'm driving this home and now I'm giving you that space. So she's very good at leading things a certain way. I could see that. She's a very charismatic speaker.
Yeah. And given what they're saying about these other women being able to be coerced, I would think that, I don't know, maybe the director would have thought about this, or somebody would have thought about this to say, like, we need to make sure that we are making this, making it apparent that no one here is coercing these women that we are saying are very vulnerable to coercive control, by these various methods. So it's not exactly set up in a way that is convincing that these women that they say are vulnerable are not being taken advantage of in this documentary. Does that make sense?
Mr. Hughes, anything to add?
Life's a journey. You are good. Life's a journey is so, I don't know who Life's a Journey is in the comments, but that's brilliant because they spotted that I saw Chase's comment. Yeah. No, not that. Not that comment. Same person, different comment.
Or the texting to Chase.
Yeah. I sent something to Chase, and all day I've been telling him, like, stand by, it's getting there today. But if it comes between 5:30 and 7-ish, I'm going to be on Hunley's stream. So I won't be able to, because I need to FaceTime him for him to open the thing. And the moment I saw it, I went to text him. He's saying he's opening it. No, Chase, everyone will unsubscribe if you open it. You got to wait. And it's just so funny how someone spotted that. I immediately saw that text and went to my phone. You guys are good. See what happens when we follow Eric Hunley?
You learn some things.
All right.
Colby,
you're just living moment by moment. You're not thinking about the end game or how you're going to get out because you're too busy just trying to survive the moment that you're in. And your reality just becomes the abuser's reality to survive.
I went on autopilot.
You do, yeah.
So like, if you do it enough times, you know how he wants you to cry, how he wants you to scream, how whatever,
Beg,
beg,
whatever,
plead.
like you're
Okay, there we go.
There was a little bit of a weird thing that Ashley Morgan-Smithline did, kind of like when she's looking and listening to Evan Rachel Wood. She looks almost like she's trying to focus, and she's a little bit quizzical, and
Oh, you caught
almost
that one
like,
too when she does
yeah.
I think she's doing a. Is this
it's
right?
like
Is
a
this
slight,
right?
like
Is this what you want? Is this what you want?
She kind of like looks up a little bit, like almost like she looks confused for a second, and then like stops, and then like finally like triangulates again. I don't know, or it's that or something. I don't know. there was something there that looked a little bit like, this is not exactly in tune.
She's seeking approval from Evan Rachel Wood. Teacher, did I get it right? Is that what you wanted? And Evan Rachel cued with the word. I mean, let's look again. That one seemed.
user's reality to survive.
It was just
I
before
went
this,
on
I think.
autopilot.
You do.
Yeah, it was before this.
So like,
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah.
And
Yeah,
your
a little
reality
just
just
before
becomes the
before
that you're in.
a little bit
And
earlier.
The moment that you're
Yeah,
in.
yeah, yeah.
'Cause
There you
you're
go.
too
Right
busy
there.
just trying to survive
Yeah.
the moment that you're in. And your reality just becomes
Yeah.
the abuser's reality to
Mhm. Okay.
I don't know, like where she kind of like looks around and like.
That one's a weird one. Like I still think it's a Q thing, and it especially comes in here.
that you're in. And your reality just becomes the abuser's reality to survive.
Because look at she also squints, like she's concentrating, like trying to what? Like she's trying to understand. And maybe I'm reading into the future with it, but I was seeing this all as part of a piece, because then later on, if you look, she's like, okay, now it's my turn. I'm
you know
going.
how he wants you to cry.
See, and now how she's really seeking as she's saying that, right? Because that she's asking a question. I feel it looks like she's asking this statement, not necessarily saying it. But let me play it through, and then I'll shut up because I don't want to.
You know how he wants you to cry, how he wants you to scream, how whatever,
Beg,
whatever, plead.
like.
And then that interjection. Now, am I wrong in seeing or what I'm seeing, or am I crazy? Spidey, you set me straight.
No, I think it's valid. I think it's valid what you're saying there, to where I like the comparison you made to the teacher thing. I do want to interject here and say something that I've said on every other stream, but I want to say it again because I want to be very clear. Maybe some people are joining us for the first time and they haven't seen this before. There is no.
Spidey hates that.
I know, but Spidey's going to make a big point. I want to make sure.
There's no right way to talk about traumatic things. There's no right way to talk about abusive stories. Some people do it when they're angry. Some people do it when they're sad. Some are protective. Some are confident because it gives them confidence and strength to be able to share it. I've done therapy for years. I've seen all kinds, from crying to laughing hysterically to screaming to all of it. So I just want people who watch this to understand, because you may not understand the nature of analysis. We're trying to get to a truth based on behavior. So we're saying, based on this, we think that. And it comes off as very attacky sometimes, but we're not trying to attack. That's all we're trying to do. We're just trying to figure out if this is consistent. So sometimes we nitpick at things, and nitpicking sometimes feels attacky, but it's certainly not anyone's intention here to do that whatsoever. We have two extremely accomplished lawyers and two individuals who study behavior thoroughly. So we're just trying to get to a truth. And sometimes to get to the truth, you have to go through an unpleasant path. And at the end of the day, if we're entirely wrong about this, and they're all, and we haven't even at any point said who's being truthful or who's being deceptive, but let's say they're all being 100% truthful about this, and none of this mattered, then yeah, we'll feel like dicks for a day. But
I'll be watching it again to see what I got wrong.
We'll look at it again and we'll see. Okay,
I'm serious. Yeah, I'll be following up, going, okay.
Well, that's good. That's
missed
outlying.
that.
Like,
Okay.
that's rarely the case. Exactly. But at the end of the day, our goal is not to diminish anyone's experience or anything along those lines. I don't think that's ever the goal with analysis. And it's weird because when we do analysis videos, we hear from both sides saying we're biased, but in the other direction. You clearly love her. You clearly hate her for the same video. It's neither of those things. We're just looking at behaviors. And I'm sorry if it comes off insensitive at times. I truly am. But we're not trying to be insensitive is all I'm saying. Okay, thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Eric, I think there was validity to what you were saying to where it's more of a following lead. Like, is this what I'm supposed to be saying? I definitely do see some of that vibe.
Yeah, did you see in the earlier too? But that was like, to me, seeking, what do you want from me? Okay, yeah. And
it's a witness that's on the stand and a lawyer that's asking the witness question. And the witness is looking back at the lawyer and trying to say, where do you want me to go with this? Like you and I have talked about this before. You're asking questions. Is this the way you want me to go? You ask the question. Okay, there we are. That's how we're doing it.
Thank you. That's better than anything I said.
That was beautiful.
I was trying to think of what it was, but that is exactly what I was seeing. It's like searching for cues. All right.
Prison as well. Like, like he would leave and go to these parties with these girls and stuff, and I would be locked in his room.
Literally lock her in her.
Now, this is a refreshing moment because we're finally getting to see somebody else, right? I mean, is it just me or has it been the Evan Rachel Wood, Ashley Morgan-Smithline show?
She's been engaged. She's been engaged, either nodding. Plus, I hate the cuts, the jump cuts back and forth, and you don't know what's taking place. But yeah, look at the surprise on Evan Rachel Wood's face when she says this.
All right, let me go back because I want to see it again. It's just, like I said, it's refreshing to see somebody new actually talking.
And as well, like he would leave and go to these parties with these girls and stuff, and I would be locked in his room.
Literally lock her in her.
And when I read the signs.
Never mind.
That wasn't a surprise to me.
That looks like agreement, like familiarity.
Encouragement, rather.
Encouragement. Yeah. I can't help.
Go back on it.
Yeah. Like, good job. Good. Yeah. Yeah. It's.
In his room.
Literally lock her in her.
And when I read the signs of human trafficking, like 70% of that applied to myself even.
Yeah. Maybe you were a strange smile.
Or when I was still being locked in a room or not allowed to go. I wasn't allowed to go to sleep for 3 days many times. And
I have big problems with all this right there.
Wait, who's she talking about? Isn't that woman?
That was Ashley Walters.
His assistant.
Who was just talking.
Is she talking about her own experience right there or someone else's?
It's supposed to be. This is the thing. It gets very mixed up in there. That this part. Okay, I'm going to go back. Let's just play again. Let you guys go.
And he would leave and go to these parties with these girls and stuff, and I would be locked in his room.
Literally lock her in her.
And when I read the signs of human trafficking, like 70% of that applied to myself even. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Even though I was getting paid or whatnot, I was still being locked in a room or not allowed to go. I wasn't allowed to go to sleep for 3 days.
Anything on that, Spidey?
I didn't like that.
Did she say it was like being locked in a room or I was like being locked in a room? Because those are two very different things.
Let's go back to it because she also says 70%.
70% of criterion that was laid out to her as far as whether she qualified.
There was a checklist that they all had.
That's a checklist, and she's like, I qualified for 70% of an offense.
Or did she say that she looked it up herself? Yeah.
Well, let's go either way. The 70% thing is going. That's quantifying and creating. You're seeing if you met a hurdle or a burden, which means that you're actively looking to see if you've met that hurdle or burden. You're not going through your experience and trying to see what it is that's happened to you. You're actually trying to qualify for some eligibility for a legal standard.
Yeah.
I'm one of you.
I would be locked in his room.
Literally lock her in her.
And when I read the signs of human trafficking, like 70% of that applied to myself even. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. When I read the signs.
Or when I was still being locked in a room or not allowed to go.
Eric, she's not even certain. Everyone help me out here. Is she saying it was like or I was like?
I think it was I was like. I think it was.
Hold on. Let me go back.
When I read the signs of human trafficking, like 70% of that applied to myself even. Even though I was getting paid or whatnot, I was still like being locked.
I was
It
still
was still
like,
like.
I was
It
still
was
like,
still like.
oh,
I
thought
was
it-
still
No,
like.
we need.
I
Yeah, it
was-
was
It
I.
was
I was-
still
I was
like.
still like.
No, I heard I.
I
I
was
will
still
tackle
like,
you all. She said it was still like.
okay,
It's
one
just
more
Let's do
time.
it again.
Not a
I'm
I.
doing it again.
It's in, not a I. It's it.
Let's listen.
Myself even. Even though I was getting paid or whatnot, I was still like being.
I was still like mean.
Even though I was getting paid or whatnot, I was still like being locked.
It.
I. The thing
It
that I
makes sense,
before E
I,
except after
because-
C.
Because it's part of a sentence where she had said, even though I was still getting paid for it.
I was
Also,
still
how
like,
she speaks, she does
Yeah.
the I was like, I was like, I was like, I was like. It's how she speaks.
Let's
Okay,
go
70%
again.
of that applied
It's
to
sounding
myself
like
even.
it was like it
Even
was
though
like it was like
It's
Oh,
Let's
not
do a
that's
chat,
biased,
a
too.
poll chat.
It's
Chat's
not.
Chat
divided.
poll.
Chat's not going to
It-
help. It's like
Oh,
there's eyes, there's it's.
I know.
it's like
I know.
it's like the blue and white dress.
Yeah.
All right.
Don't
Okay, fine.
bring
Most
up
people say it's I.
controversial.
I was like. Okay, so if it's I, then it's a literal thing. Because you said it was like, it's a metaphor. I was like trapped in a room for 3 days. So she's alleging he trapped her in a room for 3 days.
Well, no, this thing she's saying she's literally separating herself, but the saying I kind of was at the same time. It's really, and we could play it 20 times because it's an interesting statement, and she doesn't even get it out cleanly. Like the words just, they're not flowing comfortably in describing it. So she's talking about, when I read the signs. What are you talking about when you read the signs? That tells me that you've shared material here on, well, what is a sign that fill in the blank has happened?
Or she could have looked
And-
it up.
Yes. Yes, she could have. Somebody looked it up. They're sharing material. They've got checklists, but let's go
The
back.
signs of
Locker and
and like when I read the
Yeah,
signs.
the thing.
And
wait,
when
can
I
you-
read, when I
pause
read,
the
Yeah.
the signs, it sounds like she's saying that as like she's not saying it as like, hey, I was researching, I was reading up on the signs of human trafficking, and this is what I found. The way that she punctuates signs makes it sound like this is a familiar thing, like everybody else knows about these signs, which does, I mean, that to me personally, that does seem to like lend itself towards this idea of them being handed a checklist before coming in.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You
And
can-
again, there's dangers to that, because it's a different question to say list what was done, and then it's different from saying here's a list of things, check off the ones that were done. Two different things. The second one can create false narratives and memories and force things into a certain narrative, whereas the first one is free speech, and you say you're the one who provides the narrative. Two different things.
but how would she come up 70%? So obviously it was given to her. She's 70% of something. Here's
Yeah.
something, 70%. Where do you get it? She didn't just
Yeah,
come
at
in
the
and
very
say,
least,
"Here's my stuff."
it indicates that she went looking for, whether it was given to her or she went looking for it. Yeah, that there was a list of criteria that she compared her own story to. So yeah, again, not taking anything away. I mean, it's what she's describing is terrible, and I would not want to go through that. But yeah, there was a list to which she compared.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Bob.
lists. I mean, I was going to say lists in the context of what we're supposed to perceive this as, which is therapy. Lists in therapy. No. We don't do that. That's a bad thing, because that's not helpful. That does worse. So this is becoming more and more of people sitting in a coffee shop, gossip rumor, and I don't like it.
All right.
of human trafficking, like 70% of that applied to myself even. Even though I was getting paid or whatnot, I was still like
Even though I was getting paid and whatnot, I was still.
being locked in a room or not let allowed to like go. I wasn't allowed to go to sleep for 3 days many times, and not allowed to go home, but allowed to go home. But not
Every
allowed to go
time.
home.
Well, okay. I have so many problems with this, because what she's saying, I don't know. I locked in a room many times. What do you mean?
Yeah, each of those things that she says could be circumstances that are being somehow bent by referring to them broadly, right? Like it could be that from her perspective, she says, like, hey, I was being locked in a room, but really it was that, there was a certain task that she was supposed to do that she didn't do, that she slacked off on, and that the boss says, no, you need to finish this because that needs to get done. Like people can look at that same set of fact patterns and put a different spin on it. That's always possible. But, and when people sort of vaguely refer to multiple instances in a list like that, it's hard to evaluate them, without being able to dig into each one and say, well, what happened? Let's talk about it. Let's get into those circumstances.
Here's a good example for people in the chat. If you guys have ever done this before, you go through your entire day, right? And then let's say at the end of the day, you just so happen to stumble across the horoscope for that day. The horoscope for that day says that you were going to have a bad day. Did you have a bad day, or are you going back through your day saying, you know what? It wasn't a bad day. There it was. I had a bad day.
Confirmation bias.
Confirmation bias and selective memory. You know how someone says, oh, I totally believe in whatever because I was thinking of my friend. I think I'm a psychic because the other day I was thinking of my friend and they called. Well, how many times have you thought of your friend and they didn't call? Millions, billions. But on that 2 or 3 times they did, you're taking that to mean something when it doesn't.
And by the way, we're talking to a mentalist, and this is part of what he does.
This is exactly
This
how
is
we
literally
operate.
what-
This is literally how we operate.
I mean,
Like this is my wheelhouse we're talking about.
And the problem with this from a legal standpoint, because I also see people say put them on the stand and they won't put them under oath and they won't testify this way. No, the problem is they do. The problem is that when you reaffirm them enough, even factual circumstances that are provably false, they believe in their core and they will testify to it under oath. They'll say under oath, this occurred, and it might not have occurred. That's why stuff like this is really dangerous, especially when you have legal cases going on in the background. That's why there's a rule on witnesses, which exclude other witnesses from the courtroom so you don't hear what they're saying. It's really damaging to a case and to people.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And Eric, you're dead on. Like when we do mentalism or psychics, the difference, by the way, a lot of people misunderstand this. The difference between a psychic and a mentalist is that mentalists will tell you we're using trickery and psychology and tricks and things like that to do what we do. And we don't claim that it's a real intuitive gift or some sort of ability. Like we're honest about the trickery that we use. And you're very right. When we do readings, we have ways to accentuate that you remember the hits and you forget the misses. Like there's a lot of guesswork, and then we get something right, and then we'll see something in the body language we know we're right, so we'll explore that path. And by the end of it, you forget that we missed stuff. So what Rob and Eric are saying is dead on.
I want to cover somebody in the chat here because I want to make sure that do you guys feel this way? And I'll just shut up.
Never. What's in front? No.
Why does Eric decide what's in front of him, then forcefully tell you that what you're sure you've seen is completely different? I don't know what they're referring to.
Yeah, no, we disagree a lot. And I'm happy to tell Eric when I disagree, and
Yeah.
he's vice versa.
Yeah.
I don't get that at all.
Yeah.
I mean, I hear it a lot. I'm just like, okay, I'm forcing me. I was like, well, okay, let me ask him. I mean,
Yeah. No, I mean, part of it's almost better when we disagree in a lot of ways, because then we have more robust conversation. There's more fodder to sort of like pick through different topics and different things.
more action.
Yeah, you should see our text message exchanges. They get spicy.
I love how every now and then there's like comments that are like, oh, clearly Eric and Spidey don't get along, and oh, clearly Rob rubbed Spidey the wrong way, or oh, Lita and this and that. No, we freaking love each other. Like we're always like, are you kidding me? Like these 2 brothers and a sister here for me. Like it's not like if you see us disagree or someone says something and you're just watching a conversation between 4 people who deeply respect each other, at least one person who deeply respects 3 people. Yeah. So it's not like if we had a problem with the way Eric was doing something, like, Eric, you're being an ass. Stop it.
Yeah, everybody keep this in mind. I mean, this might be a minor thing, and hopefully all of you will help change it and let me catch up. But This is the guy with fewer than 60,000 subscribers. All these are really big channels. And let's look at the power dynamics here and who is really helping out whom and who really has the influence and the power here.
Yeah.
And just be honest with the perspective. You think that Spidey with his massive channel couldn't just say, oh, Eric, you know what? I've got to go. I'm going to go on tour. Yeah, Eric, it's nice. Yeah, well, whatever. If he didn't want to hang out, he wouldn't hang out. I'm quite sure. And Rob definitely will clearly not hang out. And Alita, same thing.
We're all here because we want to be.
So,
Yeah, I mean, and if somebody's a little like feeling like Eric is taking the lead on the conversation, it's because it's on his channel. He's the one that did the legwork and the prep work for, you know,
We're his
choosing the
guest.
clips and all that kind of stuff. And he just invited us. We just got, all we have to do is show up and watch and talk.
Oh, here's a good question. I'm going to pull this one up. Law number, what would a lawyer say to a client that wanted to join this kind of meeting before a trial? I would kindly advise them not to do so. I tell my clients to review their own notes, to go back through their own calendar, to go back through their own recollection of what took place. Having conversations with third parties makes their testimony less effective. So I tell them not to. And if they need the therapy, which a lot of them do, I direct them towards appropriate levels of therapy. I have a lot of psychiatrists and therapists and counselors that I work with on a regular basis that I will send them to for help.
all right. And I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up because people have things to do, clients to call, shows to attend. Sandra Ramirez became a YouTube member. Thank you very much. This dude, Law and Lumber, became a YouTube. Oh my God.
Hey, he became
That's
a member
amazing.
of mine today too.
I know. I'm
Yeah.
trying to gift memberships. I was trying to gift memberships today, and I
Gotta get on
ran
that.
into a snafu.
Well, thank you very much. And Jenny Guinevere, Jenny Genevieve. That's right.
Genevieve.
Evan thought it was funny for him to be dressed as the Easter Bunny and her to be dressed as a World War II world leader. Interesting, because people thought he was the bad one. And there you go. I mean, and if that did happen, that would be ironic, wouldn't? There is a lot of that. I have heard of a lot of that, and I appreciate it very much. And of course, I appreciate you guys. I think we got the gist of this, though, and even got to see a couple other people. It was interesting. I'm not sure what's next. We may do a little more on Dan Cleary. The guy here who has an interesting story. And hey, Shelley Stewart, thank you so much. Another
Chase,
member.
sorry, or not Chase. Oh God, my phone. All right, phone. I gotta jump off. Love you guys. I'll be right back.
Hi, Rob.
Yeah, we know who Rob was secretly thinking of. We know who Rob was.
Yeah. Well, that should slow you down. You don't have to text
I will
Chase
not
now.
be
He's
cut
with
out.
Rob.
I will not be cut out from that friendship, by the way. I refuse. Rob and Chase can't be friends without me being there. It'll feel
No, I'll
wrong.
just keep you. I'm going to keep you on here with Alita, so that way they can have a budding romance, and you'll never get a chance to talk to them. So we'll just keep talking all day. Well, thank you, Carrie Harvey. I'm not a nice person. That's already been put out. Everybody, thank you so much. I'm not sure what we're doing. Actually, next week may be a departure. I've got to talk with everybody here, but I will definitely be having on Susie. I believe it's Susie. I'm sorry, I'm bad with the names. Someone who has a long history with Corey Feldman. We're not done with the Corey Feldman situation. And I've talked to her to hopefully have an angel or two on as well. Because remember, the band were the saboteurs. I'm trying to get their side to actually come on, talk, and finish a subject. It's one of those that, people said that I was being unfair or mean. So might as well have people who were there talk about the situation themselves. That seems to be the right thing. So please tune in next week. If you like this kind of thing, please subscribe. I might even cross that 60,000 threshold, which would be amazing. And have a wonderful evening.